On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome Kate Simonet to the Buck and Honey's Remote Studios. Kate, a former collegiate athlete whose journey through depression, bipolar disorder, and a life-threatening breaking point will stop you in your tracks. From silent struggles to powerful advocacy, Kate shares how she turned pain into purpose. This is a story of resilience, honesty, and hope. You won't want to miss it. This will be a good one. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you are, whatever you are doing? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's Remote Studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast and get access to previous episodes on Survive and Thrive 8791. The podcast, don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you liked what you heard. If there's a topic or a guest who would love to share their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects, such as but not limited to grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, mental illness, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. Before I introduce our guest, I'd like to highlight our website, surviveandthrive8791.com. You can see what we are up to and the events we are hosting. If you're a business or an advocate for mental health and recovery, we invite you to partner through sponsorship opportunities. Please contact us at surviveandthrive8791@gmail.com. This is our guest and episode intro. And according to the internet, and the internet is always right, correct, Kate?
I can go along with that.
I can go along with that. All right, we've had over 100 guests, and that's the first time we've had that answer come out. Well, in my house, I don't need the internet. I don't need Alexa. I don't need Siri. I have my wife, Sarah, and she's always right. Same thing in your house?
Well, I'm head of my household, so I guess I can say I'm always right. No, I'm not. I try to be. I would say that I would not say the internet's always right, but I don't have anyone else around other than myself. So
excellent. Well, according to an AI, artificial intelligence overview, approximately 2.8% of U.S. adults, including nearly 3 million American women, suffer from bipolar disorder annually. While affecting men and women at similar overall rates, women with bipolar disorder are more likely to experience rapid cycling, depression, and misdiagnosis, and they often face higher prevalence rates in adolescent populations, 3.3% for females and 2.6% for males. Today's guest has not only lived with crippling depression associated with her bipolar disorder, but has overcome and wants to help others. Today, I welcome Kate Simonet to the Buck and Honey's Remote Studios. Kate grew up just north of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and attended Park Center High School and is a proud pirate. After high school, Kate would take her talents to Winona State University and graduated with a degree in public health. She started her professional career in the corporate world before landing at Thumbs Up, a mental health nonprofit. Today, I'm so glad you could join us. Kate Simonet, what is up?
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
It's nice to be here. I actually wish you were in the Buck and Honey Studios, but today we are coming we're doing the podcast via the Bluetooth, the cellular phone, and the World Wide Web. And as we learned, that it's sometimes okay or sometimes right. But anyway, how has the first part of the year been going for you so far?
The year has been going really good. I have a 10-month-old daughter now, and we had, a really good holiday season, and now going into springtime, I'm pretty excited about getting some nicer weather.
Oh boy, and you live in Minnesota, so you guys have been getting kind of dumped on here and there, probably a little more so than Madison. How about New Year's resolutions. Are you a New Year's resolution person?
Not as much as when I was younger, but one thing I'm really trying to focus on this year is being present and taking everything in, especially having a baby that's constantly changing. I just really want to soak up every moment because time goes by so fast.
And we'll find out, and I've also found out that is a great coping skill, whether that happens to be depression, anxiety, trauma, grief. Being present and where your shoes are is a good thing to have. Speaking of the spring, are you a spring forward daylight savings time person or a fall back person? Which one do you like?
I think I like the fall back because I get more sleep. I feel like when we sprung forward the other day, I felt like I missed half my day because I'm missing the hour, but it's okay. I adjust all right. It's nice to have a little extra daylight.
Yeah, I think 3/4 of the people said fall back because they enjoy that extra hours sleep, and then the other 25%, actually maybe 30%, was split between spring forward or let's not do anything at all, because it really does mess up with our clocks a little bit for at least 2 days out of the year when it could be perfect. On the podcast, we've added at times a question of the day, and I've been doing this for probably a couple of years now on Snapchat, but I've started doing them on social media. So today's question of the day on March 10th is this. So when you're a little blue, when you're a little sad, when you're a little down, what are 1 to 2 things that you can do that snaps you right out of that? Share that with the listeners if you would.
One of my big coping skills, struggling with mental health and resilience in general, but finding gratitude, I think, taking the time to name a few things that you're grateful for every day, and not only naming them, but feeling grateful. It allows you to kind of move throughout your week and recognize little things that, aren't that little and can help uplift our mood a little bit. And then second one, something that always makes me feel better is a cup of coffee, but that's dependent on the person, I guess.
Cup of coffee. I don't know if that's going to make me feel better at 11:45 p.m.
No.
But definitely when you said the word gratitude, because I know there's language in mental health and recovery and, getting better mentally and physically and emotionally. Gratitude is a huge word when it comes to recovering from something. And once you said that, I started thinking of the people that I'm grateful for, the things I have, and it automatically kicked in some good feelings for me. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And again, a couple of good strategies. A cup of coffee and some gratitude. I love it. Before we get to your story, I need to talk about our sponsor. Our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's a great escape from cooking dinner. Kate, do you cook? And if so, what's your genre, style, or cuisine?
I like to cook. I've been cooking more so now than I ever have, and it's been really fun to try new recipes. I don't think I have an exact genre, but I do really enjoy Mexican food and making tacos and stuffed peppers, burrito bowls. Those are all fun and can be made pretty healthy.
You had me at tacos. With their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and welcoming and vibrant atmosphere, people keep coming back with locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Waunakee, and Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. Most communities in Dane County, which encompasses the Madison metropolitan area, can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. Drum roll. Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
I have not.
You have not. Well, the next time you venture down this way to the Madison area, you let me know and you'll be my guest. You and your little one and your significant other will be my guest at Buck and Honey's. You just let me know.
Okay, that's amazing. Thank you.
Yes, they got some great pizza, and they also got a ever-changing menu that seems to bring up some good stuff. I guarantee you would like it. On the podcast, our guests follow the format for sharing their story like this. In segment 1, we talk about what was it like, Kate's history, what happened to get Kate on the podcast. And in segment 2, we continue to talk about what happened and get into what it's like now and we discuss Kate's 5 suggestions for thriving. You grew up in and around the Twin Cities, graduated from Park Center Senior High School, and you're a proud pirate. Tell us about what life was like growing up in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, so Tim, I grew up just out of Minneapolis, and I was a very fortunate kid growing up because I had a very supportive home life. Not all my friends had that, but I had parents who, kind of encouraged me to be the unique person I was meant to be, and they supported me being in sports and school and volunteering, and they came to a lot of my events. So I was really fortunate to have very supportive parents. And in high school, I was a 3-sport athlete, captain all my senior year, and straight A student, very much a perfectionist growing up, and had a lot of things going for me. And I would say on paper was very much an all-American kid.
Sounds a lot like me, minus the grades and the athletic ability.
That's okay.
Yes, I digress. I was okay. I just didn't have the academic stuff. I was an okay athlete. Tell us about your family. You have mom, dad, a sister, and I think you had a dog. Spin some yarns about them.
Yep. So my parents, like you said, were very supportive. My sister, 4 years younger, we played sports together and got more close as we went through school. And we had a dog, Stanley, who was our family dog, little black toy poodle.
Stanley.
And
what kind of dog was he?
He was a miniature black poodle.
So you and your sister must have been in school at the same time. You must have been a senior, and then she was a freshman. Sound about right?
Correct. Yep. So we grew up doing a lot of activities together, and we're not as close in elementary school, but when we started playing sports together in middle and high school, we became a little bit closer.
Yeah, that bond eventually then grows even a little bit closer as you go off to college, and then you get out of college, and it's really cool how things evolve with in particular siblings. But sometimes I know that boys can fight with boys, and girls can, sisters can fight with sisters and brothers, etc. So it sounds like you had a great relationship with your sister. You have a family of your own, a significant other, Tony, and a 10-month-old daughter and a couple of Labradoodles. Go ahead and talk about them.
Elsie is my daughter. She's 10 months and growing, changing very fast, but a very happy baby. She's my first child, so learning a lot, but I've loved being a mom. And then Tony, we've been together for about 6 months, and then 2 doodles who are 5 and 6, and life has been really good. Been very grateful with where I'm at now, and it's nice to have a fun, supportive household.
10
We're
months.
busy. It's 2 dogs and a 10-month-old. It is a lot, but it's all good.
10-month-old. So talk about your 10-month-old on the move now. Have you had to baby, what do they call that when you baby-proof your house? Yeah.
Yep. So Tony just put locks on all the cabinets. We just installed gates because I have a 3-story house. So up and downstairs can't be doing that because about 3 weeks ago, Elsie started crawling, and she's just getting faster and faster, very on the move, and wants to pick up everything.
Everything goes to the mouth, and then once they get even more mobile, when they can move around on their feet, then look out. And if the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree, she's gonna like running because that was one of your strong suits. Tell us about a fun fact. Is there a fun fact that we should know about Kate Simonet?
Well, I grew up going to the family cabin that my parents now own, and that's where they live, because it was my grandparents' house. And our family has a tradition in the summer of taming chipmunks at the cabin. So we will put out sunflower seeds and peanuts, and eventually throughout the summer tame chipmunks to come and eat out of our hands.
So you and your family are the chipmunk whisperers. Is that how, I think that goes along with that show, Dog Whisperer? You guys are the chipmunk whisperers.
Correct, yes.
So Park Center Senior High School, made up of the communities of Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Other than sports, because you already mentioned that, what did you like most about your high school years? And you also talked about being in school at the same time with your younger sister. What were some things you enjoyed about your high school years?
I honestly, sports was the highlight of growing up. I was very disciplined. I liked to work hard. I liked to hang out with my friends, and I made a lot of close friends through athletics. And so I would say friends and having those extracurricular activities to look forward to.
Keeps you out of trouble and keeps you in shape, and matter of fact gave you a little bit more passion for cross country and track, because after high school you would take your talents to Winona State University and you would run for the college cross country and track team. Talk about that.
Correct, yeah. So I was a very dedicated runner in high school. I ran cross country and track, and then was grateful to be talented enough to be accepted to join the team at Winona State, which is a D2 college, and I ran there for 2 years. And I know we're going to get into a little bit of my mental health story, but because of some of my mental health struggles, was only able to run 2 of the 4 years at Winona.
And cross country and track were your passions, and you said you liked the running part. So were you a distance runner, maybe a mile and 2 miler or 800? And then of course the distances change a little bit when you get to college, correct?
Yeah, in high school I was always the one person to raise my hand when I wanted to run the 2 mile on the track. And then when I was in high school, before they changed the rules, races in high school in Minnesota used to be 4K. Everywhere else it's 3K. So they've changed it now to be 3Ks, or 5Ks, sorry. They used to be 4Ks, and now they're 5Ks, which is 3.1 miles. And so going off to college, you run 6Ks, which is just about 4 miles. So I ran with a lot of people from Wisconsin in college, and it was a really big jump for the kids who were coming from Minnesota, because we would have to go from a 4K to a 6K in college, whereas the Wisconsin folks only had to go up 1K. And in track, there's indoor and outdoor track in college, and so I ran the mile indoor, and then steeplechase is what I did in college, which is not one of the events in high school. So that was really cool to learn how to do when I went up to college. Yeah,
that's jumping over barriers, and you got to also jump over the water pit, and I've seen that, and I'm like, I don't really want to do that. I have a hard enough time running on a flat surface. Anything more than a mile is going to be you're asking a lot of me to get that accomplished, and you're doing it competitively and even at times for fun.
Yeah. Running 50 miles a week was a norm for a few years there, and now as an adult, I'm now 31. Looking back, I really don't know how I managed to do everything I did.
Must be something that you were passionate about, and maybe was something that, and you didn't even know this, but maybe it was a coping skill or strategy that you used, and you just felt good about it because you had some passion for it. So you would be diagnosed with a bipolar disorder, and it sounds like that may have started in high school and certainly caused you to stop running cross country and track so you could focus on your mental health. Talk about the bipolar disorder and how that diagnosis all came about.
Yeah, I had no symptoms of mental health issues as a child or a teenager, and when I was 17 years old in high school, that was about the first time I started struggling with depression for the first time. And so in my senior year of high school, I went through a very dark depression, and back when that happened about 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I didn't have words to understand what I was going through, so I didn't know how to cope with my emotions, and so went through a really, really difficult time, which I know we're going to talk more about. Got on some medication, and after I got put on medication, I kind of stabilized with my mental health. That's when I went off to college my freshman year, and I was running cross country and track. I was managing my mental health. I was, going to college full time, and I ended up not liking the side effects of the medication I was taking. So long story short, I quit taking medication, and had was not stable enough mentally to continue to function on my own. So I was hospitalized and ended up being diagnosed with bipolar disorder after some evaluation and answering some questions, looking at pink splotches. So from the time of my first depressive and manic episode, it took 2 years to get a diagnosis, which actually is pretty good because for most people it does take longer than that.
That definitely gives us something to kind of chew on and talk about a little bit, because the foundation of the podcast is mental health, recovery, and mental health can be varying things from anxiety, depression, trauma, grief, and bipolar is kind of its own group, because applying some, and this is what I've kind of figured out or learned through my research, is that bipolar needs a little more help than just coping strategies, just rather than just breathing strategies and meditation and gratitude. And you can, again, reinforce this, or you can say yes or no, but from what I've heard, there has to be some chemistry, brain stuff, and where medication can play a huge role in maintaining, a good mental outlook versus, like you said, you decided to stop taking your medication, and then that would lead to more bipolar symptoms coming up. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I would definitely say medication is one of the main pillars of coping with bipolar disorder. And as someone who has tried to do it without medication, for some people, everyone's different. And as you're probably aware, mental health issues show up very uniquely in different people depending on the situation. But for me, I do need medication to show up and be my best self and be healthy. And so I don't think that's a weakness or anything, but I do think that it's something that for me, I definitely need to be able to be happy and be my best self.
Well, I'm happy you said that, because like you said, every diagnosis and every situation is as unique as the people that have those. And you sharing your story today and creating some awareness, and if people are struggling with some of the same things that you did, they can now use your suggestions and maybe get themselves evaluated, get in and talk to a counselor. And if it's medication that they need to make them show up and be a little more positive and a little more productive, that's all we want in life, is just to be those things and then be of service and be of use to other people, which you are doing with what we're going to talk about in the second half of your nonprofit that you work for, and then being somebody who had some mental health struggles. You know what people are going through, and you can help them through their own thing. So I'm excited about the second part. But because our listeners want to hear the rest of your story and what brought you to the podcast, I need to talk about the sponsor one more time. Buck and Honeys has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning, with 4 locations in the Madison area. One is always near. People ask why Buck and Honeys. Owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He has a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Buck and Honeys does. Kate Simonet is in the Buck and Honeys remote studios today via cell phone to talk about her life and how she has lived with a bipolar disorder and survived a suicide attempt. She wants to help others by sharing her story so that those who suffer with bipolar can recognize it and get the help that they need. You'll hear more about that and what it's like and the work she is doing now. Please stay tuned. Don't change that channel. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We will be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365 and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat, visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. The podcast is where we feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. Today, I'm glad to be joined in the Buck and Honey's remote studios via cell phone by Kate Simonet. She is here to talk about how she was diagnosed with a bipolar disorder, had a suicide attempt, and wants to help others not to have the experience that she had to go through. She's here to share her story and bring awareness to bipolar and depression. Segment 2, you would be diagnosed with a bipolar disorder and crippling depression, probably depression since high school, and then you got the bipolar disorder diagnosed your second year of college. After your experience, your senior year, you would survive a suicide attempt. Do you care to share what that was like?
Yeah, I wanted to just talk a little bit more about my experience in high school. I know I shared that I grew up in a very supportive family, supportive community, was very involved. I graduated from high school in 2013. I was 18 years old, and I think, Tim, one of the reasons I was so quiet and unable to voice some of the things I was going to when I started struggling with depression was that I felt very guilty. I would walk through my school and look at other people and think like, wow, that person has it so worse off than I do. Like, why do I have the right to complain? And so because of that mindset, I put a lot of guilt on how I was feeling, and I blamed myself a lot. And I talk to people now about their mental health, and I really want others to know, like, everyone's situation is different and our emotions are valid. And I wish I would have given myself some grace and been able to get the help that I needed sooner. But I actually struggled for about 9 months with depression that got worse and worse. And I hid it, I know, for a long time, and eventually started dealing with suicide ideation. So I went on a spring break trip my senior year. And around this time when I went on spring break, I had already been dealing with depression for a good 7 months. And so I was not functioning normally by that time. I was really, really struggling to keep going and was not sleeping enough, not eating enough. I was struggling with short-term memory loss. And while I was on this vacation in the Dominican Republic my senior year, I was with my mom, my best friend, and her mom. I had a psychotic break, and that essentially means I lost touch with reality, began to hallucinate, experience delusions, became very paranoid, and essentially became a danger to myself. So thankfully, the people I was traveling with were able to get me back into the United States. I did not make the connecting flight back to Minneapolis out of Atlanta, Georgia, because of the hallucinations. I did not understand where I was, and I was not safe enough to get on the plane to go back home to Minneapolis, where the goal was to get me some care for what I was going through. So I was actually hospitalized for 2 weeks in Atlanta, Georgia, and I do have to say I'm very grateful to live in the Midwest, because I do think that mental health care is a little bit more advanced here. But it was a place for me to be safe and start getting on and eating, sleeping, get out of the psychosis. Then after 2 weeks, I came back home to Minneapolis, and if you can imagine, being a 18-year-old in high school, being gone for a month and then going back to school after experiencing something traumatic that you don't really understand at the time, and everyone from high school knows you were gone and no one knows why, and they don't want to ask questions. It's very awkward. It was very uncomfortable. I had a lot of shame. I didn't understand what I went through or why I went through what I did. And so when I was back at high school, again, my parents were very supportive. They were educating themselves on mental health. They were doing everything they could to support me. So I was in therapy. I was taking medication. But depression, there's not a quick fix. And even though I was back and functioning at school, my brain was not well and I was not doing well. And so after 2 weeks of being back at high school, I attempted to take my life. And I had a lot of shame. I was dealing with a lot of depression. And I think people, when they go through those really, really dark times of struggling with suicide ideation, for me, for the most part, in my depression, when I experienced suicidal thoughts, it was very intrusive, which made it really scary for me, because I just remember feeling so hopeless, like I couldn't get my pain to go away. And I really did want to live, but I didn't. I was just in so much misery, and it was very much a nightmare for a really long time. And then when I came back from the spring break trip and I was back at school, I just had a lot of shame. And being this captain in sports and a leader in the community, I really felt crazy, and I felt like I let a lot of people down. So that is why I attempted to take my life at the time. Made more sense then than it does now. And I have to say I'm very grateful to be here today, because I live a life that I am very grateful for and very happy.
Well, we're glad you're here too, because of the message and the gift you've been given. You've been given a gift, and I always tell people that you can either keep that to yourself or share that with the rest of the world. And today you're sharing that with the rest of the world by talking about your symptoms, talking about the kind of care you got, and then also giving us the experience of taking medication, getting right, showing up, and then stopping that, and then eventually what happened when you stop your medication. And the bipolar disorder is dependent upon medication and maintenance of your disorder. I want to go back to a term that I hear a lot now, because I'm in the mental health and recovery and substance awareness field, is suicide ideation. And if there's some listeners that are wondering, what does that mean? Can you just give us a 30-second explanation on what suicide ideation maybe meant to you?
Yeah. For me, I know everyone's different, so I don't want to speak for everyone, but for me, it was having thoughts and imagery about dying by suicide. And not all the time when I was experiencing suicide ideation did I actually want those things to happen, but it was suicidal thoughts for me throughout stages of bipolar have been very intrusive, and I can't always control some of the things I think about. And I've learned through therapy as I've gotten older that thoughts are not who we are, it's things that we experience. And so it's something I've learned not to fear as I've gotten older, but as an 18-year-old kid that had never had thoughts about suicide or learned about suicide, it was a very, very scary experience.
Kate, that's some great stuff you shared about suicide ideation. I want to go back even just a little bit where some of the listeners, whether they're on a treadmill or they're out for a walk or they're listening on the way to work, and they're asking the question, Coach Chikora, ask her what her suicide attempt was or what you did. And I want you to kind of paint the picture, and if you care to share, what was that suicide attempt?
Yes. So when I attempted, I actually, we had a second garage at my parents' house growing up, and that's where I parked my car, and I drove into the garage and shut the garage door, and was just going to let myself fall asleep with the car running, and my dad ended up walking in and getting me admitted to the hospital.
And thankfully your dad was able to do that and get you the care you needed, and now you're here today to talk about your experiences and to help other people who might be having suicidal ideations or have had a suicide attempt, that you are here to talk about better ways of handling that and coping with that. And then now you're doing some of the work that you're doing with your day job. Your career is helping other people. Crippling depression. I had crippling anxiety, not necessarily the same, but some of the symptoms are. Talk about some of your symptoms that you had with your depression.
Depression is a tough one because honestly, bipolar disorder, just to let your listeners know who might not know, it is something that is treatable, but it is not curable. So bipolar disorder is something that people live with, but it is manageable. So depression is a symptom of, or one of the key components of having bipolar disorder. And one of the reasons bipolar disorder is a disorder is because everyone experiences moods on a pole. Sometimes we have a sad, down mood, and other times we have a more upbeat, happy mood. But people who get diagnosed with bipolar, like myself, experience moods more severely than the average person. So I have bipolar 1, which comes with the symptoms of psychosis, which I talked about earlier, the hallucinations. But with bipolar disorder, major depression can definitely creep up, and symptoms for me, I think if you've experienced depression, you can relate to this, but it's definitely inability to do things that you basically do every day. It seems very difficult. I would almost say like depression stripped me of things that really made me me and made me care about things I cared about. I didn't care about them anymore. I lost the ability to have an appetite, sleep normally. I had lack of sleep. Things that normally brought me joy, spending time with friends, playing basketball, going for a walk. Literally, I lost motivation to do any of those things that really I cared about and made me me. And so when I went through my major stint of depression, I hid it from a lot of people. So by the time I did get the help, I felt very fake. I use the word fake because I felt like I was like a robot going through my life, and I didn't find much purpose in what I was doing because of the lack of wanting to do those things. And then with the depression too, just a very deep emotional pain, which makes it really hard to, carry on and show up as yourself. And it's a really, really hard thing to deal with. And so with bipolar disorder being a lifelong struggle, there's times I go months without struggling or years without struggling, but the depression always shows up the same in those feelings. But I think if I've learned to cope with it better as time's gone on.
I think I would
answer your question.
Yeah, you explained a lot. There's a lot of content there, and I think the more, the better, because you talked a lot of different symptoms, and they might show up for some people and they might not show up for others. One of the things you sent me, and I'm going to bring this up because you included in the notes, was a fear of weakness. And maybe it was because of the success you had in athletics and the role you played with volunteering and other leadership things outside of athletics. That fear of being weak somehow wormed in there as well. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I had a skewed idea of mental health as, and I think that comes with stigma, but I thought that if I couldn't make myself feel better, that was a weakness, that struggling with your mental health was a weakness. And it's not a matter of being strong or weak. I think it's a matter of us being sick, and we should look at it as same as a physical illness or a injury. I like to say mental health injury instead of illness, because I really thought that I could do it myself, and can't fix cancer by yourself. And so there shouldn't be any shame in leaning on others. And I didn't understand that in high school. When I first started struggling, I thought that I could do it by myself. And so just had a very big fear of looking weak. And I've learned over time that, which we'll talk about some of the things that I've learned and shared, it really is okay to lean on other people. And I would also like to say that I think for me, when I was struggling with depression, I always looked for external things that I was doing wrong. I thought I wasn't showing up as a good student, or I wasn't going to church enough, or something I did was externally, that something I was doing was causing the depression. And I didn't understand that mental health struggles don't discriminate. They can affect everyone. And sometimes they are a chemical imbalance, and it's not a fault. It's not necessarily something that we cause because we're not showing up in a good way. Not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but that's how I interpret it the first time I struggled with it. And I think that's what made my situation as bad as it did, because I didn't understand really what I was going through.
I really like how you talked about the injury thing. And if you come down, grab a rebound, and you step on somebody's foot and you roll an ankle and you hear that snap or whatever, and the trainer runs out to you and you go to the doctor, you go get x-rayed, you take care of that. Mental health injury, you're not feeling right, you're not thinking clearly, you've stopped doing what you normally do. Well, I've got an injury of my thoughts or the way I'm thinking. I need to go and talk to somebody about this, and I'm going to treat it just like a rolled ankle. And we're going to get a diagnosis, and we're also going to get some exercises that we can do to get us back on the court, or in this case, with bipolar and some depression or anxiety or whatever it is, get you back into the game of life where you start to feel better and more productive, and all of a sudden you're back to that old self. You talked about...
I just wanted to add, getting that rebound and spraining that ankle, it would be like someone struggling with depression, but it's the ankle, and you just keep getting up and playing, because it makes the situation worse and worse if you're not taking the time to take care of it.
So well said. You just talked a little bit ago about support. Who were you leaning on for support once you started going down this path? And then once you realized that, okay, I'm not feeling right, this is not the way I normally am, and then you started to get some support, who is that coming from besides a counselor, a therapist, or a doctor? Who would you lean on?
Back then, I really did not lean on anyone. I tried to lean on my family, but I was not honest, and my family took me to the doctor, took me to a therapist, and if you sit down and a doctor asks you your symptoms because they want to make you feel better, and you're not honest or open about what you're going through, they're not able to help you heal. And so similarly to me, when I first started struggling and I went and saw a therapist, I was really scared to say that I struggled with thoughts around self-harm because I didn't know what was going to happen to me. And so because I wasn't honest with my family and therapists or doctors that they would take me to, I wasn't able to get the support and the care and the medicine that I needed at the time. So I really, through that stint in high school, which was the hardest time of my life, I did not lean on outside resources in an honest way, which was doing an injustice to myself because I wasn't getting the support I needed. But as I've gotten older and I've understood the struggle and the disorder, I have really, really leaned on my family, my friends, coaches as I've grown up. I'm very involved in the church. I have found that leaning on other people and being surrounded in a community is one of the best ways to cope with your mental health.
I imagine when we go over your 5 suggestions for thriving, there's going to be some things in there that are also going to, that you're also going to encourage people to lean on some coping strategies and some other things when maybe people can't necessarily be there for you. So what got you to a point when you felt like you were turning the corner and started to thrive and get back to the old Kate? When did that start to occur and what was going on?
I actually do remember it. So I told you I was hospitalized in Georgia, and then I came home, and then I attempted, and then I was hospitalized again at a hospital in Minneapolis. And when I was there, a doctor sat me down and explained to me that it was possible to overcome depression, but you have to want it, and you have to want to help yourself. And part of doing that is being brave enough to be honest. And I remember that moment, and I had connected with other patients in the hospital who had been through it before, and it made me realize that there was hope in finding myself again and feeling like Kate again. And so I really started applying myself and taking the treatment seriously, because no one can do it for you. You have to want it, and it's hard work. And I would say the turning point for me was meeting with that doctor and understanding that going back to a healthy state was possible.
I just wrote down in my notes here, maybe you and I should get a t-shirt going, be brave enough to be honest. I really like that and how you phrase that. And if that's what the doctor said, I think that is good stuff to have, in a notebook, in a phone somewhere. And just a reminder that, you know what, instead of hiding what's going on with my life, I need to be brave enough to be honest and get the help you need. Let's talk about what you are doing now. You've been working for a nonprofit called Thumbs Up. It's a Minnesota-based nonprofit organization dedicated to mental health awareness and suicide prevention. What are some of the things you are directly involved with at Thumbs Up?
I am so grateful to be at Thumbs Up because I get to turn my pain into purpose, and something that almost took my life when I was a teenager, I now get to advocate for and normalize. And so I was hired about 2.5 years ago and started managing some of our programs. We do a lot for the community when it comes to mental health. We serve everyone. But especially teens. And I have a big heart for that because I know what it's like to go through a mental health struggle as a teenager. And I think the more we talk about it, the less pain and stigma, and hopefully lives we can take away, but lives we can save. Sorry, I meant to say most pain and stigma we can take away and lives we can save. So I really do believe that Thumbs Up makes a difference, and now I am here and I work here full time, and it's just really, really cool to see the community be brought together and support it. We go into schools, we do things for everyone in the community, but I love connecting with the teens especially.
All right, we got our second T-shirt. Turn your pain into purpose. Again, I sometimes get hooked on slogans, mottos, and here are just a couple of, 4 or 5 word statements that can really, people can latch onto and use to help with their mental health. Now, there are some listeners out there that might be thinking, okay, how do I get involved with Thumbs Up? That sounds like a great place for me to either volunteer at, or I've got some extra funds, some disposable funds. How can they get information on some of the things that you do at Thumbs Up and how they can maybe donate?
Yeah, we have 9 different programs. I could get into them, but I'm not going to. But you can learn more at our website at thumbsupformentalhealth.org. Thumbs Up for Mental Health, all written out. The 4 is FOR. And it's, you can find ways to get involved. You can find resources on our page because we're all about connecting people to resources. And then you can also donate to us as well.
Excellent. And I hope we get some donations or some people reaching out for the resources that you provide, in particular in the Minnesota Twin Cities area. But I think anybody can reach out to you from no matter where they're at. And you can certainly, if you can't help them directly, you might be able to find them the support that they need in their community. Lastly, let's talk about a book, a memoir that you wrote about some of your experiences where it goes a little more in depth. So let's talk about your book for a second.
Yeah, so I published a book called Out of the Darkness. If you search Kate Simonet on Amazon, you can find it. It's about 124 pages, goes more into detail about the things I shared with you today, Tim, and it's an open journey about struggling with bipolar, a suicide attempt, and being very raw and vulnerable about what that was like. And so you can learn more about my story through ordering that book on Amazon or online at Barnes & Noble. And I'd love to have you check that out.
And that's author and mental health advocate Kate Simonet. And yes, check it out. I'll make sure I put the name of the book, title of the book in there, and we'll make sure that if you're interested, get that thing ordered.
Absolutely.
This is where the subscribers, followers, and listeners take out the notebooks, pens, and pencils and jot some things down. Here are Kate Simonet's 5 suggestions that have allowed her to survive and thrive a bipolar disorder and a suicide attempt. And here's what you shared with us, and I'm going to toss these in underhand softball style. Can you hit a softball?
I can.
You can. And you said that with purpose. I love it. All right, I'm going to toss these in, and I'm just going to say them exactly how you sent them and hit these in about 60 seconds or less. The first one, number 1, understand that your pain is not your fault. Go ahead and hit that.
Life is not fair. Life is not easy. I don't think it's meant to be. I know everyone has different beliefs on why we're here, but I do not think that life is easy for anyone. We're all going to experience hard things, whether that be a mental health struggle, physical illness, loss of a loved one, abuse, miscarriage. There's so many things that unfortunately we're going to have to struggle with. Our pain is not our fault, but our healing, I believe, is our responsibility. And I just want you guys to know that if you struggle with something, it does not define you. I like to say I have bipolar. I'm not bipolar. It's part of something I experience, but it's not who I am as a person, and it's not the end of my story.
Good stuff. Number 2, it is brave to ask for help. Go ahead and hit that.
I have an author who I like to follow. Her name is Alexi Pappas. She wrote a book about being an Olympian and struggling with her mental health. And one thing she said that I love is asking for help is a superpower everyone has, but only some people use. It is brave to ask for help. And that's all I have to say. I think that leaning on others it's not a weakness. It's one of the bravest things we can do, and it sets us all up for success.
Yes. Good stuff. Number 3, it is not a weakness to take medication. Go ahead and hit that.
Medication is a tool to help us thrive, and If you take medication for your mental health or anything, that doesn't make you less of a person or doesn't mean that you're not capable of things. It's okay to use that as something that helps you show up as your best self, and you're not any less than for doing that. I have bipolar disorder. I've been taking medication consistently for over 12 years, and it's one of the reasons I can show up as a good employee, a good mom, show up in ways that make me me and feel like me.
Excellent. Number 4, surround yourself with people who uplift you and love you for being you. Go ahead and hit that.
This has taken me a few more years past what I've shared today to understand, but if people are there for you in your life, you shouldn't have to perform or earn love or trust. Showing up as your most authentic self is unique. There's no one who can replace you. That's why we need you here. And the people who are your people are going to love you for being you, and you're going to show up to support you. And so I just think it's important to know that there's people in life that want to be here for you, and one of the best things you can do for yourself and for those people is to be authentic and vulnerable and know that you're special the way you are.
I love that word, vulnerable. We need to be vulnerable more often because it seems to work for a lot of people that have struggled. And number 5, know you are not a burden and don't believe any thoughts that convince you otherwise. Go ahead and hit that.
I would say that depression, I recently made a post on Instagram, but about reasons the things I've done since I ended up living and choosing life. And just because we don't see a reason to keep going doesn't mean that there isn't one. I think when we're depressed, we're struggling with injury. Our brains are sick. And that doesn't mean that there isn't things in life that are reasons to be here or things to look forward to. And so if you ever thought that you're a burden or you're not good enough or you're not worthy for help, those are not true. And I think that those are symptoms of depression. And know that you're worth it. And I just have to say that I'm so grateful that I survived my suicide attempt because of the wonderful life I have today. And struggling with depression, those are really hard times, but they're only moments and things do get better. And so life is 100% worth living.
So well said. What an episode. I'm so glad you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your approach to life and how you managed to get through what you've had to endure in your life is inspiring. You are doing some amazing work, or at Thumbs Up, being of support to your clients and bringing awareness to bipolar disorder and suicide prevention is work that needs to be done, and you're doing it. You're the boots on the ground. Our call to action, Kate Simonet just shared her story and how she has been working through a bipolar disorder. She wanted to share her story and bring awareness to her diagnosis and help those who can't help themselves. Here are Kate Simonet's 5 suggestions to survive and thrive. Number 1.
No final thoughts. I just want to say, Tim, thank you so much for having me be here today. It's an honor to be able to connect with your listeners and hopefully help people know that it is not only possible to survive with a mental health diagnosis or struggle, but also thrive and live the life you want to live.
You are doing with your work at Thumbs Up, with your work as a keynote speaker, and I definitely will put some contact information in the show notes as well as the promos on where they can get a hold of you, especially if they have some of the content that you shared, if that's going on in somebody's community, in somebody's circle. You can certainly be an advocate. You can be a keynote speaker. You can share your experiences, and we can then all can understand that you can survive and thrive in what you've gone through. So I really appreciate you, and I can't wait to someday meet you face to face. So keep doing what you're doing. On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we will have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they learn to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.